That was a beautiful song. Did you write? You said you wrote that? Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, in the song, the lyrics of the song, that was my message for today. So I guess we're done. How is everybody doing? I'm very, very grateful to be back here again. It's a beautiful topic to talk about, letting go. It really is something that comes up in our life. How many people have something that they're in the midst of letting go at this moment? Well, whether you wanted to let it go or not, this change is inevitable. It's always happening. And I think the Buddhists say that the impermanence is the nature of life, and to embrace that and to be okay with that is something that sometimes we struggle with as humans, right? We always we have some plan, we always want it to go the way we want it to go, and then life sometimes throws us a curveball. True? And as we look at not just our own individual lives, I mean, I travel around to different places, and you got people that are having different things come up. Suddenly they lost their job, although maybe some new career or interest takes off, or they're being displaced, they're living in one place and suddenly across the country, relationships that were together for a very long time may separate, or new ones coming together. And even we have some dear loved ones that may have fallen sick or may have even recently made their transition. This has happened in my life as well with my dear brother. So there is change. Change is inevitable, and it's sometimes we don't want to let go. And even when we speak about our own life, the micro level, then the macro level, we look at the world. There's so many things that are going on in the world that we kind of question. Where are we in our own spiritual evolution of understanding some of the phenomena that are going on in the world that just don't seem to be a little bit archaic or back in the dark ages. And so I think letting go from both perspectives of our own inner world, as well as knowing that we are part of the interconnectedness of the divine matrix of humanity, and everything that we do to raise our own vibration has an impact on the greater world as well. So what I like to do is I like to look at this letting go, not so much as about what we have to let go. I think we know that, and sometimes it's whether it's our own desire to let it go at the moment, or something just hits us and we need to let it go, or maybe it's already been out of our life, but we're still plagued with the pattern or the thinking or the whole programming around how we've been raised or been in something for such a long time that the letting go becomes difficult. So instead of talking so much about the what to let go, I want to discuss a little bit about the how, the process, how we can evolve as spiritual beings in this world and even deal with this ever-changing essence of life that just so happens. And so the four things that I look at is, number one, is to be able to just be open to change. Open in such a way that sometimes change is difficult. Sometimes change is awkward. Sometimes it pushes us outside of our comfort zone. True? And then the second one is the ability to surrender and get out of our own way. Because quite often when we're stuck or when we're having to deal with anything that we're trying to let go of in our life, sometimes it's up to us to be the one to surrender. And to let Spirit and let God and let the presence of the divine allow us to carry our life forward. Even when we're on the stormy seas, to know that all is good, all is well. And then the next one is to come from a higher level of understanding, from our own divinity, from the own sacred nature of ourself, and to look at our life and to look at all life in that way. And the last is to have compassion, because everybody's on their own path and their own journey. And even having compassion for ourselves is something we sometimes need to do. So in the first one, being somewhat open to change has been difficult for me. And I know it's, when we're having to face to do something different, it sometimes just rocks our world. It's just uncomfortable or it's awkward. And I'll share a little story with you that kind of illustrates this fact. My youngest daughter, Ashley, came back from a visit. She had moved away to Tennessee, and she came back for a visit. But this time, instead of just bringing herself, she brought 2 dogs. And we already have 3 dogs. So now you can imagine a house of 5 dogs and 3 cats was nothing but activity. Now, the 2 dogs are Axel and Cooper. And the only reason why I know that is because they're plastered all over Facebook. She's proud of these dogs, and every time she can take a picture of them, you don't see her, you see these dogs. Axel's the younger one. Cooper's kind of like a bigger old hound, like a Scooby-Doo dog. I mean, if you ever had a real-life Scooby-Doo, it would be Cooper. And so my daughter said, you know, Dad, hope you don't mind, but I'm bringing my 2 buddies with me, and I'm sure the house is, you know, more for animals than it is for people. And she said, but please be careful. Cooper is somewhat of an escape artist. If he gets out, you're never going to get him back. I come home, no cars in the driveway. If there's no cars in the driveway, there's no adults home. Even my daughter, Ashley, even my wife. I open the door and I get greeted by a bunch of excited dogs. Like a lightning bolt, something kind of flashes by me and gets running down the driveway. Guess who? Cooper. Now, I shut the door, and I did like what everybody would normally do. In our normal life, we have normal patterns, normal beliefs, normal habits. So what would you do if you had a dog that was running from you? You shout Cooper, right? You wouldn't shout Fred. And so no matter how many times I said Cooper, this dog would turn, would look at me, and would go to the next neighbor's yard, like he was playing. And no matter, you know, how many times that, you know, I just said Cooper, yell it louder. And finally I decided the other thing. When life is not working, the patterns of life are not working, sometimes you do have to reach out for advice. So I reached out to the rightful owner, my daughter Ashley, who was an hour away, who was not going to drive home. She's visiting friends. And of course, I got Ashley on the phone. Dad, he doesn't know his name. We picked him up from the Humane Society a couple of weeks ago. I gave him the name Cooper. Try calling him Big Boy. He responds to that. And then the second thing, Dad, you're too tall. He's scared of you. You got to get lower and shout Big Boy. And I'm like, Ashley, you're kidding me. By the time we live down the street from this park called Bee Ridge Park, and it's got 2 baseball fields, it's got basketball courts, volleyball courts, and it's got a bunch of pavilions and picnic tables, and it was Saturday afternoon, and it was like crowded with people, and here I'm going through this place shouting Big Boy and trying to get as low as possible. Difficulty with dealing with change. And and this is true in life. This is true in everything. When we're letting go, we're having to shift. We're having to see things differently, look at things differently. And in my case, there's actually 2 boys that came, and that's exactly what they did. These 2 boys, I don't know if they were boys or they were dogs, they just fell on the ground and they played like a dog, and this dog came right over to them, and I looked at him, I said, just grab his collar. And I was able to get Cooper safely back home. But that's the way life is. We have these things that we're letting go of, but our old patterns of thinking and believing and behaving just are with us. And the awkwardness is the fact that we sometimes have to embrace the change. We have to embrace the new. We have to understand that this is our spiritual evolution. This is our growth. To let go, to grow, is something that is a challenge, yes, but there is grace that is within that will help you. And I think the second thing is there's just understanding the word surrender, just understanding surrender and trust, surrender and get out of your own way. Because sometimes we get so frustrated because we've had this pattern or this person or this situation. And when life throws us a curveball, we're like, nah. But sometimes when we see that it's not working out, well, sometimes we need to get out of our own way. True? Years ago, and I don't know, has anybody ever had a slump, a major slump in their life, right? Be honest, okay. Some people raised their hand. The rest of the people probably did, but they didn't raise their hand. Years ago, I was in a career, and I was in sales, and I've been in sales I started as a mechanical engineer, but I realized that I'm a people person, so I kind of pushed myself into sales. And this was like the worst slump ever. Everything was not going my way. I had already done fairly well in this company. I hired and helped train other salespeople, but the way the company got reorganized and shifted around, I was put into a different territory, which meant building a lot of new relationships. At the same time, I found the way we were paid in this company is called a draw, commission and a draw. Anybody familiar with commission and draw? So you've been in sales, okay. So a draw is actually you're borrowing money from the company. So you have consistency of a paycheck to meet your needs. And then you get a commission, and when you get your commission, you pay back that portion of the draw, that loan that you borrowed, and of course the rest that's left over is your bonus, the rest of your commission. And this hadn't happened to me for a while. In this slump that I was in, I realized that no matter how hard I worked, no matter how many phone calls I made, no matter how many appointments, it wasn't that I was getting rejection. I was getting people say, well, yeah, but we're not ready now. And I had all these orders that I put together, and I did all my follow-up calls, and I was like really frustrated. And part of it was my own ego, because here I had been like a champion in a company, and now suddenly it's like I'm down at the bottom, and I owe my company money. My boss said, you hadn't taken your vacation time for a while. Now, think about it. When you're in a situation like this, the last time, you want to keep your foot on the gas pedal. The last thing you want is a vacation. And almost you feel guilty sometimes, like, I'm going to take time off, I owe the company money. But again, my boss kept telling me, you need to get out. You need to get out. And he was right. And so I decided to completely, radically change this whole mental environment, because I was in my own way. I was having these thoughts, it's not working, nobody's calling me back, sales aren't good, and things like that. And I was I was blocking the dam myself. And so I decided at that spare of the moment that I would actually go on a wild vacation. I had done bike packing or bike touring before, and I called my college roommate, who I hadn't spoken to in about 10 years, and we both agreed to actually put up a map of the United States and blindfold ourselves and throw a dart. And wherever the dart landed, we would take our bicycles and our camping gear, and we would just go out and have a trip and have fun. And mine actually landed in the Pacific Ocean. So, so John, my college roommate, his landed somewhere close to Yellowstone National Park, and that's where we went. And it was an absolute adventure of a lifetime. I had completely let go of everything that was going on in my office type work. John didn't even have a bike. He had to borrow it from a friend. And we had to figure out, we got very affordable plane tickets. We had to get cardboard boxes from a bike shop, so we said save those boxes so we could put our bikes, disassemble them, put them in a box, fly out to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, find a campground, find a place to put our box, and we spent a number of days actually just going through all these mountains and vistas and seeing all this wildlife, and it was absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible. And there were moments, they're just like, there's synchronistic moments. There was a campground we showed up, we were in there late too. It was like, hopefully we have a spot. We got one spot open, and it's paid for. The person paid and left, and it's sitting here. And so we would have, and I met somebody from my high school, like, how does that happen? Around a campfire. The campfire conversations and the people that I met along the way and the wildlife and the vistas and the geysers and the hot springs and the experience of nature and the experience of a whole different climate and excitement, and even the challenges, even during the challenging days, trying to navigate with two skinny little bike tires going over the Continental Divide in an ice storm. or coming around a corner and then suddenly realizing, oh, that's a herd of buffalo, and you got to put on your brakes. Or going down like a mountain path and like, did I just ride by a rattlesnake? All these things became memories, and they became playful, adventurous. And sometimes we need to do that, break out of the mold and do something different. And the craziness of it was we actually had a time when a storm opened up for us, and it poured like crazy. And I always ask cyclists, how do you get showers? Well, nature is how we get showers. We were drenched, our tent was drenched, and we actually, because we couldn't find a laundromat, we hitchhiked outside of Yellowstone to West Yellowstone, Montana, which is like going back in time. It's like dirt roads and the Old West. And we found a laundromat, but at the same time, we also found a couple people that invited us to a cowboy's wedding, where they are all wearing cowboy hats, cowboy boots, and Levi's, and having a hootin' time. And here's John and I still standing there, drenched wet in our bicycle spandex. You really, really can't even make this stuff up if you try. And here's the moral of the story. After all that, I go back and I actually hit a record. I didn't know this until I got back into the office. All my sales, the dam was, even sales that I didn't even work on, happened during that time. Unexplainable. And the reality was, and there was this company had this thing called an extra 2% kicker, which if you got to a certain level and beyond, they would kick in this extra 2%. So I no longer owed my company money, and everything, this like the dam had released and everything was flowing. And so now I intentionally put in adventure and fun into my life, even different times during the day, different times during the week, or even going on, adventures. And I think that's one of the things when we surrender and we let go. What is it the thing that's in your life right now that you need to let go of? And maybe just do something radically different. Maybe go have fun. Go play. You may not have the answers. The divine has the answers. But sometimes energetically, we need to get out of our own stuckness. Yes. And when we see things are not necessarily going, there's a letting go process that's happening. Sometimes we just need to do that, to surrender and allow what would be fun, what would be joy, what would be exciting at this now moment. The other thing is to be able to see life through a higher sense of awareness. When we can see life through our true self, our divinity, the sacred sense of our true nature. We are human beings, true, but we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And sometimes we get so ingrained within the human condition, the shoulds, or living in the world of comparisons, or cultural and social norms, that sometimes we lose ourselves. We don't even know our authentic nature. And so the whole letting go could be letting go of the false sense of self, the false sense of labels, the false sense of attachments, the things that don't necessarily need to be in your life anymore. In the Western culture, quite often, our self-worth gets equated to our net worth. And we've accumulated a lot of stuff. And I don't know if I've done that. And nothing's wrong with stuff, nothing's wrong. But sometimes I sit back and I look and I realize, is this really what I want right now? And the releasing and the letting go of something that is no longer wanted, even just giving it away, creates a vacuum of a new experience that is ready to be birthed, ready to happen. I mean, even myself, I had gone through this struggle of, well, I didn't have a big enough home. I wanted something bigger and I wanted something better. And then I kind of like, well, I don't even like living indoors. I grew up on a farm. I was like, I like nature. And so for me, today, where I'm at is actually, I've scaled down. I've gotten rid of a lot of things. And it feels better. Because when we go bigger, broader, better, there's nothing wrong with any of that. And the material items in our life we cherish and we love. But at a certain time, we go also bigger, broader, and better with other commitments and mortgages and things too, that sometimes becomes heavy. So where is it in your life, and we're all in different points of our life, but where is it in your life that maybe there's something that needs to be let go of? And when we come from our true essence, our divine essence, our spiritual essence, that light that's within us, that's the authentic self. And when we understand that life itself may come and go, people, places, things, experiences may come and go. It's not static. But we, even we, none of us will get off this planet alive. None of us will. But we're eternal beings of light. We always have been, we always will be. And that true nature of ourself can sit and look at life and almost, like the song said, be grateful for it. Be blessed for it. Know that the people that are in your life, whether they were the best friend or the worst enemy, are there to serve you. And to know that there is a sense of grace in the very becoming of your own spiritual nature through the endeavors of the human life. But yet you know that you're beyond that, and accepting that grace, and accepting that guidance, and accepting to know that Spirit, the infinite, has always got your back in every divine moment, every moment at all. Even when you don't know the answers are there. And although we get tangled up quite often in this human condition. We are, the moment you turn on a TV, we become programmed. That's why they call it a TV program. Television, right? In a way, we're being hypnotized quite often. And the news doesn't always show good stuff, right? It doesn't sell. Normally it's the tragic, it's the drastic. And when we realize we're feeding into that emotionally through our own attention, we're creating the very monster that we don't want in our life. And when we look at the evolution of humanity, we get to these moments in time and say, wait, maybe it's time for me to shut that off. Maybe it's time for me to not hate it, but just to be able to shut it off and to escape and to go out into nature, go into silence, and understand that I don't necessarily have any power on anything that's going on somewhere else in the world. I can control though myself. And because of my divine connection to the all that is, me raising my own vibration. So shutting that off, ultimately, we can't control what's going on in the White House, but we can control what's going on in our house. True? And so knowing from divine perspective of who we are and the fact that we have the ability to individually connect to that higher state of consciousness at any divine moment, we can see the world through a whole different way. We can step back from the problem and we can see it in a different way just by shifting our consciousness. Albert Einstein says, you cannot solve the problem at the same level of consciousness that created it. This is true in our own lives. This is true in the greater world. And the last is compassion. Really having compassion for where everybody is at. Because within this whole structure that we were living in, we see that, all the people are being taunted and pulled in different ways, and there's lots of emotions, and there's fear, debate, anger. I mean, if you really want to control humanity, all you need to do is just take the power away from them, tell them the source of the divine is outside of them, put them in fear, and keep them divided. If humanity wakes up and realizes that they are in control of their own sacred sense of unity consciousness, they don't need to be in fear, and that the source of all life thrives, lives, breathes within all life, within everything, including themselves. That's at the moment we become liberated. It's like two marionette dolls within the marionette play that looks up and they say, oh, we're fighting, but it's the same hand of control, and they take the scissors out and cut the strings. and hug each other and return to love. Because love is the common denominator. Love is, from a computer perspective, anybody a computer science person in here? Anybody work with computers? Anybody have a computer? Anybody know what an operating system is? The operating system of a computer is just the default system. It's what the system does before you put any programs into it. The operating system of humanity is love. The operating system of humanity is love. Everything else that's been taught to us, and pretty much everything in life has been. We come into with our innate, we come into with our five senses. We know what sound is, but we're taught language. And everything around our life becomes conditional, taught, and becomes rules, things that we follow, and sometimes we don't even know why. And it's when we sever ourselves from that hand of control and we start to come into the authentic self. We start to blossom anew. We start to realize that through a compassionate heart, that everything is evolving just perfectly, beautifully. And we have compassion for everything and everybody, no matter who they are, where they are on this planet, whether they're our next door neighbor, or even if it's ourselves. Compassion is the one ingredient. It's the answer to the question, what would love do? What would love do now? That is compassion. And sometimes that's really what it comes down to. In the letting go for ourselves or the people that are going through struggles and they're letting go, it's being able to have that space of compassion and understanding. I will leave you with the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, author, Buddhist monk. He was interviewed a number of years ago. I don't know if it was 10, 12 years ago, but it was an interview where he was asked two questions. And he gave the same one-word answer. The interviewer asked Thich Nhat Hanh the first question, what is the cause of all suffering? What is the cause of all pain? What is the cause of all challenges? What is the cause of destruction? What is the cause of war? The answer Thich Nhat Hanh gave was consciousness. The second question, what will bring light to humanity? What will bring unity? What will bring the abundance and fairness and equality for all to where we have peace on the planet? The answer? Consciousness. We are the consciousness. As we raise our individual consciousness, as we practice the things that you learn here at Unity, this is really what it's all about. The only contribution that we really have to humanity is our vibration, is our essence, is our presence, is who we are, showing up authentically, and being able to embrace and letting the go, to being able to know that sometimes we need to embrace change, even though when it's awkward and when it's difficult. Sometimes we need to surrender and get out of our own way. And there's times that we just need to step back and look at this as our divine self, embrace the divinity that's within us, and being able to understand it from that point, and above all, have compassion. Because the truth is, you are the change of tomorrow's tomorrow. When enough individuals get together with an open heart of love and begin to see the world the way they wish they want it to be, we can create heaven on earth. Namaste.